What's up, guys? All right, so I recently taught this mini series on the book of Ecclesiastes for my small group in church, and I thought maybe I'd try to sum up some of it and discuss it. Ecclesiastes is kind of a strange book, and in fact, if you read it and you miss certain details, you'll think, how in the world did this get in the Bible? Because it seems to point out that life is meaningless, and it's a recurring theme. All right, depending on what translation you read, he'll say meaningless, meaningless, or he'll say vanity, vanity, and that word that's used there is kind of like a smoke or vapor, and the idea is that it's something you can't grasp. So, and he gives lots of reasons why life is meaningless. Basically like death. And that whether you're a good person or a bad person, it doesn't seem to matter. You're going to die anyway. Or, sometimes the age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people? And that even after you die, time keeps going. Eventually you're not remembered. Eventually, you might build up a legacy, pass things down to your kids, but your kids might be incompetent. They might lose it all. They might be evil themselves. There's all these like variables, and it's tough. And this is very similar to what you'll see in Buddhism when Buddhists try to say, hey, look, life is suffering, right? But in Buddhism, they'll say, yeah, but there's an answer to suffering. And there's actually in Ecclesiastes, there's an answer to the suffering as well. So what makes it such a cool book is that not only does he say there's an answer, he tries to answer it with lots of different things. And it's the same things we all try to fill our lives with to find purpose and value in our lives. He says, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to get rich. And so he's rich. But he said at the end of the day, it did nothing for him. He was still going to die. He was still going to suffer. So he said, okay, well, what about, having all the power in the world? The writer supposedly was a king. And again, he said it didn't seem to matter to him, giving him any value or meaning, because it was all going to go away. And then he spent time with a lot of women. He had lots of wives, and all the women in the world, no matter what, that basically love, sex, any of that, it just didn't fulfill him after he had pursued all those passions. So he tried filling it with gaining wisdom. And he says, yeah, wisdom is good. And it helped him live his life. But again, it did not provide ultimate meaning. And so to him, all of these things that he chased after was like trying to catch the wind. And I think it's like 12 chapters long. It kind of gets into all this. He goes into it. The writing is very beautiful, and I would suggest anyone read it. But he does kind of come up with an answer at the end of what he thinks the purpose of life is, or the meaning of life. And he says it basically like this. He says, fear God and keep his commandments. Now, it can be easy to hear that. I gotta put in code on Anyway, so it's easy to hear that and think, well, this is just, another religious text telling you to follow the rules or whatever. But that's really not what he's saying. So this idea of fearing God is not like being afraid of God. It's about a respect. And it's about not only a respect of like the being of God, this creator, but it's also like a respect of how things are. In other words, we don't always have all the answers, but we can still respect the fact that there are things greater than us. You know what I mean? Like, We can respect that there's forces of nature that's outside of our control. We can respect the fact that the universe is vast. We can respect the fact that we don't have all the scientific answers at our fingertips. Like, this is this idea of fear of God. It's a respect of the things that we don't understand and we don't know, and having a respect and fear, an awareness of being created, and not really in control of our fate. Now, the second part is keep God's commandments. So, to understand this, now you could easily point to Old Testament stuff, whatever. But I want us to look at the New Testament and see what Jesus said. Jesus said, look, I can sum up all the commandments. Okay? Now, see, these commandments that I think they were talking about in Ecclesiastes were not like all the rules to live by, but it's like these general guidelines of how you should live your life. Jesus says this. Here's how you sum it up. Love God, which is very similar to that idea of fearing God, respecting God, being in awe and wonder. Love God, love your neighbor. That's the commandments. In other words, the guy who wrote Ecclesiastes looked for purpose in life, and he said, look, I came down to this. Love God, respect God, understand that there's things I don't know, and serve other people. Try to do good. Try to live a life of purpose, even when it seems purposeless. But that by living a life of purpose, you'll actually find true joy, true meaning, true value. And there's this, I don't think I can get into it right now. It's kind of a long story about this guy, Tom White. But he's this guy who became wealthy as a owning a construction company in Boston. But he just poured out his life and gave away so much money over the years mainly to this foundation called Partners in Health that he helped to start with a doctor, that they started this clinic in Haiti, and then it spread kind of globally to like these unreached places throughout the world, helping treat things like tuberculosis, HIV, but also just like going to people's villages and finding out what they need. And that might be clean some soap and some water, or it might be a toothbrush, it might be just someone to talk to. And he said his goal in life, this Tom White guy, he passed away several years ago, was to die empty. Meaning he wanted to give away everything he had. Now, I'm not saying you have to live up to the standards of giving away all your money or whatever, because the point is everybody has something that they can give, some way to do more, to do better, to push ourselves. And I don't care if you're struggling with addiction. I don't care if you're disabled and you're stuck in the home. I don't care what your excuses are, because I've made all those excuses myself. No matter what it is, I've made an excuse not to do the right thing at certain times in my life, right? But we've got to get rid of those excuses and live our lives like Tom White said, man. Die empty. And if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, hopelessness, more than likely, the cure to that is just like this guy in Ecclesiastes said. It's to fear God. So respect God. Love God. Live in awe of the things you don't understand. And then pour out your life to serving other people. Live with purpose. Live with meaning. And I don't care what your religious background is. If you do that, man, you're probably going to do all right. Guys, I hope this was okay. I hope this was not too much rambling. But above all, I hope you guys have a great day.